in just 4 short days. The official rebrand of this podcast and the business is taking place, and I'm excited you are here to be part of this adventure with us. Welcome to episode number 259 of the In a Weekend podcast. I'm your host, Yong Pratt, and before we dive into today's episode, which is an interview, I want to stop and say thank you. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your week to listen to this podcast and share how impactful the episodes have been. I appreciate all of the love and support I've been getting in Messenger and DMs over on Instagram about the rebrand as we've been sharing the behind the scenes and counting down for a couple weeks now because this rebrand is going to be epic. There's so much in store for you with the rebrand, and one of the big things we've been working on is a brand new challenge for you, which also hits the airwaves on Monday, February 17th, which incidentally also happens to be my birthday, so do me a favor. Come on over, join the party, save your seat for the challenge, kickstartyourbook.com. In this interview with Callie Mettler-Smith, we're going to dive into the details so you can find out more about what this challenge is and who it's for and how we're really together going to help you take everything that makes you awesome and put it together in a brand new package with a pretty little bow and turn it into a book so that you can attract more of the people you want in your business. Our guest today is Callie Mettler-Smith. She is an author, a writing coach, and a publishing whiz extraordinaire, and this is actually her second appearance on the show. She is a graduate of Podcast in a Weekend, and we did an interview several episodes ago, which I will link up in the show notes for you today so that you can go back and listen to her, get an introduction, and find out more about her. This next Monday on the 17th, though, is going to be an epic day with the rebrand, the Kickstart Your Book 5-day challenge, and my birthday. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I'd love to see you in the challenge. Save your seat at kickstartyourbook.com. And now, on with the show. Have you ever thought about writing your own book, but something just kind of stopped you in your tracks? Maybe you thought it was going to take a really long time to create your book. Maybe you just thought you didn't have enough to share. Well, today I want to reveal a way that we can help tap into all the ideas and knowledge you have in a brand new challenge we have coming up for you. And today, to celebrate and share about this event, I have with me my partner in adventure in this challenge, Callie Mettler-Smith. Let me bring Callie onto the show. Hey, Callie.
Hey, how are you today, Yong?
I am so great. I have been so excited and just kind of chomping at the bit to share this challenge with everyone because I think as we've gone through the creation process, interviewing lots of our people, we've kind of discovered this is sort of the missing piece that a lot of people who desire to write a book need. So I'm excited to talk about this upcoming 5-day challenge.
I know, it's so exciting, isn't it? You know, I think for a lot of people, they respond to the fact that they want a book and they have a book in them, but sometimes it can feel so big to write a book. You know, it's like, well, where do I start and how do I organize that thing? And I think that the great thing about this challenge is that it provides the framework for people that just aren't sure where to start. Mm-hmm. They know they want a book, but they just don't have the pieces available to them yet to accomplish that. And I think that that's the great thing about this challenge is that we're providing the framework that they can walk away from the challenge, not with a book written in 5 days, because that would be really hard, but they have the framework to get them on the road to starting to write their book.
And that's such an important piece too. The word that you said over and over again that I love is the word framework, because we're not giving you a copy and paste kind of thing. We're giving you kind of some guidance based on our decades of knowledge in this arena. And we'll both share our stories, kind of how we got to be authors and how we started helping other people do the same in just a moment. But the idea of getting those puzzle pieces in a very strategic order so that it doesn't feel so big, it doesn't feel so overwhelming, to do little baby steps each day. And then over the course of 5 days, you're going to make a lot of progress. All those little steps kind of compound each day, so at the end of the week, you already have, a bit of your book, ready to go, so that you can work on the rest of that as well. Because the hardest part to anything is getting started, of course. So, Callie, can you talk about your background, maybe introduce yourself a little bit to my audience? I've had you on the show before, but it's been a while. I had you back when we were talking about your podcast, but let's talk about your author journey. Tell us where you started and what you're doing today.
So I became a published author when I was in 4th grade. A little known fact that I published a poem in a poetry anthology when I was in 4th grade. But I always loved to write, and I loved to read first, and then I loved to write because I loved to read and I wanted to put things out into the world. And so I started my career as a newspaper person, writing feature stories, person features about specific people, like, the oldest person in Jones County where I live, and stuff like that. And then that love of writing really grew into book writing. And at this point, I have 2 children's books that I have authored and put out into the world, as well as an anthology of all the newspaper stories that I've written over the last, at this point, 15-year career that I've had in newspapers. But I also own a publishing company, Clearfork Publishing. And so since 2014, I've helped authors put their works out into the world, whether it's a picture book or a devotional book, or we've really ran the range of books that we could put out. But I really have this passion to help people that aren't naturally writers get to write what they want to put out in the world, because we all have a book inside of us, and we all have that natural need to create something. Especially as entrepreneurs, we create things, right? So that is my I would say that is a big calling that I have, to help people. And at this point, I have 20 years experience in writing under my belt.
That's so amazing. And it's interesting that you share the story of being first published in elementary school, because if any of you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I actually shared a similar story, that I had my first piece of writing published, a short story, in a local writers festival. And my kids laugh because the story is called The Purple Duck. But it's so funny because in that story, it was sort of like laying the framework, or the seeds, planting the seeds along the way that I just didn't really pay attention to. I just knew that it was something I loved. I actually have a whole, a bunch of binders and notebooks full. I was going through the other day looking at all the writing I had done, and really never thought that writing would ever be a career. And, these days I probably do more videos than writing. However, it's still getting my message out into the world. So what I want to say to all of you, if you have a book in mind, and we're talking specifically about nonfiction books,
yes,
something based on your ideas, your knowledge, your experiences, that can really help your business grow to that next level. You can use it as a really awesome business card. Can you imagine if you have this book, you get it in print, and anyone who hires you for a service or takes a class, and you send them one of your books? That's such a cool gift, and it's going to go a really long way in really helping you establish yourself as an expert, which I know is one of those words that most women, myself included, we don't necessarily gravitate towards that word, because it feels like we're saying we're better than somebody else. And that is not it at all. Everyone listening, watching has specific knowledge, experience, ideas that are yours. And there's no new ideas anymore, it seems. You just take an idea that you gravitate with and you turn it into yours. So, Callie, let's talk about this non-writing adventure. How is it different than writing a fiction book?
Well, it's not really all that different. With nonfiction, okay, so with fiction, you have a main character that is really driving the story. But in nonfiction, you become the main character because it's your voice that's coming through the book. And so a lot of the principles and framework are the same as a fiction book, with the idea that you are the voice of your book and you're putting your words out into the world. And so when you're it's just like you said, you are the expert that is putting out whatever your niche is. So like with me, I'm working on my yoga certification right now. So I could possibly write a book as a yoga instructor where I am putting out my voice of how I feel about yoga, or, and so that is the fun thing about nonfiction, is that it's all about you. And like you said, sometimes it's hard to show up in that way and have that, but that is the cool thing about it. It's your business card. It's your voice. It's what you're putting out in the world and the way that you're showing up as an expert in your community.
I love how you're talking about it as the voice, because it's really that, the voice, your unique skills, expertise coming through in the way that you put it down onto paper. And the cool thing about this challenge, though, is we're going to talk specifically about voice and about how you stay true to your voice. I know this was a problem I ran into back when I published my first book. I first of all have to share that I felt like I was cheating when I wrote this book, because I actually took a whole series of blog posts, about 10 of them, and decided to turn it into a book, because these were pretty big and meaty blog posts. They were not, 100 words. They were thousands of words each, with lots of examples and lots of things. And I turned them into a book, and I thought that I was doing it wrong. I thought this was a crazy idea. And fast forward to today, repurposing content is one of the things that I love the most about helping other business owners, about tapping into what they've already created, not what you have to create in the future, what you already have in your vault, and then turning that into an organized work so that you can publish your own book.
Yeah. And I love that you specifically talked to that, because so when I interact with people that are not naturally writers and they voice that they want to write a book, that sense of overwhelm comes in, like, well, how do I do this? Because I'm not naturally a writer. And so I'm glad that you point this out, because that's one of the modules that we are going to have in the challenge, not to give too much away about the challenge, but one of the modules is just taking stuff that you've already put out into the world and repurposing it into the book. And here's one of the fun things about the challenge, is that we do have a module in there where we're going to show you how to actually write your book without actually sitting at a keyboard and typing out your book. So that's kind of one of the exciting things. Yeah, it's so good because lots of times I think as entrepreneurs that really aren't naturally writers, we get this deer in headlight look when people say something about putting a book out into the world. And in fact, I had a conversation with somebody the other day that I felt was like the ideal person that this challenge was created for. And she said, I get comments all the time on my emails because people feel like I'm talking directly to them, like it's in my voice. And I told her, I said, well, that's the cool thing about the book, is that it's like you're talking directly to your audience. So just take what you put in your email and put it into a book. And so that's the awesome thing about this, is that you really don't have to sit at your keyboard and toil over it. It really can be so much easier.
Right. And that's one of the myths that I bought into back when I published my first book too, is that, it has to be hard. I had this vision in my head. I don't know where I got it from, but I just thought about my favorite authors and how they must slave away for hours behind the type, like an old school typewriter back then. That's what I had, a typewriter, about having to sit there for hours and hours on end, looking at this blank page, figuring out what you're going to write and how you're going to create a story. And the fact is, these days, with all the technology we have, that's not the case, which is such a good thing for any of you listening who Callie is talking about, who maybe writing is not your favorite thing. We can do it and approach it from a different vantage point so that you don't have to sit and write and struggle and really feel like it's hard to do that, because we want this to be joyful. Writing a book and sharing it with the world, yes, it's going to be some work, but it's going to be something fun because you're taking, again, your experience, your knowledge, the way that you serve others, and you're turning it into a format that more people can get access to. So, Callie, let's talk about the cost or the price of this challenge. What are we charging for this challenge?
It is free. Free.
Did you?
I know, who doesn't love something free?
Yeah, for free. Yeah, I think it's on Bedtime Story. There's a character who always says that in the movie. I love that. It's one of my favorites. And we went back and forth because what's in this challenge is so valuable. And if you go through the steps, which won't honestly take you very long each day, 15 to 30 minutes, if you want to spend longer, by all means.
Right.
But these are quick wins we want to give you every day, because when you get those wins and you get that momentum and the plane takes off, it's so much easier to keep you going. So we went back and forth about, we could really charge for this challenge. But at the end of the day, since I have a rebrand coming up, if you're following at all that adventure, we're actually changing the podcast name. We're changing the whole business name, and the focus is going to change. And part of how we're going to serve and show up in 2020 is to help you turn your ideas and knowledge into things like books and podcasts and so much more, because it really doesn't have to be so hard. You can start with one great story, one great piece of content you already have or you're dying to create, and then we're going to show you how to flip the switch, turn it into high gear, and get that book published. So, Callie, what are you most excited about with this challenge?
Oh, so for me, the best part of my job, that I just across the board is helping people create things. Like, that is my passion and my excitement, is when I see when people put their words out into the world. And so for me, the best part of this challenge is to see what people are going to create through the challenge and what they're going to put in. And I think it goes back to that whole question, like, how easy are you going to let this be? Like, how are you going, we're putting out the blueprint for you. We're framing this out for you to get you. And that's why the challenge is called Kickstarting Your Book. How are you going to let us assist you into kickstarting this book? And then what are you going to create out of that? And I cannot wait till we get to day 5 just to see what people create and what they put out in the world and what their focus is going to be, because that is the best part of my day-to-day job.
Absolutely. And I feel the same, to see that spark and to see that understanding and embracing of all those things that make each person in this challenge unique and how they can share that voice out into the world in a big way. That's the best part about both of our jobs, is that we get to help you tap into you and really to take you to that next level, because when it comes down to it, that's probably the hardest thing we have to deal with every day, is believing in ourselves. So let us believe in you so that you can really make this year and the start of this decade really, really awesome by putting out your first book into the world. And at the bottom of the screen, if you're listening on the podcast, you can head over to kickstartyourbook.com, save your seat in the challenge. If you're watching the video live or on replay, we will definitely make sure we add the link in after we're finished as well, because this is about you. This is about taking your ideas and turning them into an asset for your business. Now, before we wrap up, Callie, where can people connect with you and see all the cool stuff that you've done, your published works, and how you serve authors in a big way?
Well, you can go over to CallieMetlersmith.com, or if you're interested in writing, I do have a free Facebook group called Writing Magic that you can request, and I do post prompts and stuff like that in there, and provide support to people that are interested in writing. I also want to mention that the challenge is starting on Monday, so you can, I think that it's important to think about, like you said, by the end of 2020, you could have a book written. And so you can definitely connect with me on Facebook to make that happen.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely connect with Callie online or on her website, because she has a wealth of information for writers, whether you're nonfiction or fiction, because definitely it's about connecting with the right people who can get you there faster. And again, this challenge is about stealing the information and the knowledge and not making all the mistakes Callie and I made when it came to writing and publishing a book. So definitely go and save your seat at kickstartyourbook.com. We kick off on Monday morning, February 17th, which also happens to be the day we are launching the new Rebrand officially.
Woohoo!
And it's my birthday, so it's going to be a party. So I hope you all come and join us. Save your seat. Callie, thank you for being my partner in this grand adventure. I'm so looking forward to seeing what is created in just 5 short days.
I know. I cannot wait.
It's going to be awesome. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll catch you very soon. Before you head out on your day, be sure to go to kickstartyourbook.com and save your seat for next week's 5-day challenge. Callie and I are looking forward to helping you write your book in 2020 and make it a reality. So join us for the party. Help us celebrate Rebrand Day and my birthday in style, because what could be more fun than a gathering of amazing business owners, amazing creators, and putting something brand new out into the world based on things you've already created? How cool is that? Save your seat at kickstartyourbook.com, and I look forward to seeing you in the challenge. Cheers.